Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. The New York Jets have finished their 2025 preseason. They lost on Friday night to the Philadelphia Eagles 19-17 to wrap up their preseason schedule. A lot of takeaways from that game, not everything very pretty for sure. No starters were playing outside of Membu, who got some run in the first quarter and did not look particularly sharp. We'll get into that a little bit. Some guys stood out like Malachi Moore and Jamal Pritchett. And overall, the Jets are now marching towards the 4 p.m. deadline on Tuesday to get down to a 53-man roster. And they've already made some moves to do that. One, a really nice move, traded Derek Nandi to the Kansas City Chiefs to get a 6th-round pick back for a guy they were probably going to cut. He really was one of the worst defensive linemen this camp. It was a big disappointment. It pretty much seemed like it was a foregone conclusion at the beginning of camp that Nandi would make this team, was really invisible, was outplayed by a lot of the other backups. So he goes back to Kansas City. We also saw the conclusion of the QB3 battle on Friday night, and listen, I do not think that either quarterback covered themselves in glory on Friday. I thought that Adrian Martinez looked really sloppy in the second half. He only completed 50% of his passes. He had an interception that was bad. Overall, played himself out of the potential QB3 role. And that means that Brady Cook, who played in the first half, is going to be the third quarterback on this team. This also means that if Tyrod Taylor is not available to play in week 1, if he's not returning yet from that knee surgery he had, means Brady Cook is one snap away from being the quarterback of the Jets in an actual regular season game. And let me tell you, that does not feel very good. So I still don't feel great about Cook being that guy. I thought Martinez looked like a more professional quarterback at this stage, although he did not look good on Friday, and I can't stress that enough. He did have a couple of nice drives to end the game, though. They did get a nice touchdown. Lawrence Tuafili, who was cut yesterday, had a nice 19-yard touchdown rush. Martinez went for the 2-point conversion and got it, and he was able to run it himself. And then as they go to tie things up, they get a touchdown from Donovan Edwards, who is not going to make this team either. And they were unable to convert the 2-point conversion. And then on the very last drive, there were some bad drops. It was not the cleanest football, so they end up not able to come back in a meaningless game against the Eagles. But I think if Martinez was able to finish that drive off and score and win a game late, maybe that's enough to take the spot. But to me, it was pretty clear as soon as they announced that Brady Cook was going to start the game that this was Cook's job to lose. So Brady Cook is your third quarterback on the Jets behind Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. Aaron Glenn seemed very confident that Tyrod Taylor would be ready for week 1. So far, Glenn has been very forthright with everything around injuries. So for him to say it early on, it means I believe him and I take his word for it. So it seems like Taylor will be the backup quarterback for Justin Fields when they play the Steelers week 1. And overall, those are the two quarterbacks who are going to be on this roster unless they, for some reason, have to elevate Cook because Tyrod's not ready to play. So before we get to other potential roster moves, just want to put a bow on the game against the Eagles. Overall, a sloppy game for the Jets. 10 more penalties. You know, Aaron Glenn talked a lot about accountability and has shown some accountability as the head coach early on, but penalties remains to be a problem. A lot of pre-snap penalties. Membu, who was the only starter who played, he had a false start. He had a hold. He did not look great in terms of penalties. He actually scored out pretty well in terms of his blocking, so he was moving guys around, but the rookie needs to keep his head in the game and not commit penalties in order to keep that line clean. The one player or two players who stood out in my eyes, Malachi Moore, had a huge special teams tackle to start the game. He then has a huge hit that is right before an interception that he then picks off a long pass down the field, and overall he looks athletic. He looks like he's able to tackle at the point of attack. Moore is a guy who played over 60 games at Alabama. He is the person I want to see starting in place of Tony Adams very soon. I don't think it'll be week 1, but I think he can definitely take that starting role, within the first 4 weeks of this season if he keeps playing like he's shown he can play. What I really love is he has the hard hit. Then he's talking a little trash. He then gets an interception. The very next possession, he has another huge cracking hit. This is a guy who can tackle, and I've said it a bunch of times, but we've seen Cisco, who's going to be the safety next to him, make a lot of mistakes. He's an all or nothing safety. There's going to be guys running behind him. You need a sure tackler next to him. And also, Moore is a guy who can be a ball hawk too. And this is a team that has struggled to create turnovers over the last few years. It's been a big reason why the defense has not been successful. So, I thought Moore really stood out. I think it's only a matter of time before he is the starter. The other one, and it was quite the roller coaster ride, was Jamal Pritchett. I think Pritchett's certainly locked up this returner position. I think he's going to be the punt returner for this team. And, it's going to be him or Nwangwu. But he muffed the first punt, which is not good. And at first you're like, man, the only way this kid plays himself out of a role is if he does exactly what he did. Well, the next punt, he returns for over 40 yards. He's looking shifty. He's making tacklers miss in the receiving game as well. Had a couple really nice highlights. A really good night for Pritchett overall. And I'm excited to see what he actually does in terms of the passing game. This is a crowded wide receiver room. And he certainly has shown that when the ball is in his hands, he can make some plays. Another youngster who looked really good, Peyton Page, had a sack. He's been a dark horse to make this team for a while. I think he has a really good chance to make it. If not, he will definitely be secure on the practice squad. And I would not be surprised if he sees time at some point in the season. But he has looked really good. Now, on the other side, again, the quarterback play was really dreadful. I do not think that Brady Cook looked very convincing as a thrower. Overall on the stat sheet, it wasn't abysmal. He's 13 of 19 for 99 yards and interception. Did not really throw the ball downfield. The interception was not great. And there's just not a lot of zip on his throws, but clearly the Jets think he's a better prospect overall long-term than Martinez. I think if Tyrod was really at risk to miss week 1, maybe you see them keep Martinez because he looks a little bit more game ready, but Brady Cook's going to be a project they continue to work on. Unfortunately for Donovan Edwards, I think it's the last time we're going to see him, the undrafted free agent from Michigan. He did have that touchdown run. The line did not block for him at all. Zach Kuntz, who lost his job, he had a drop, and then there's video of him just completely whiffing on a block where Edwards loses a bunch of yards because of it. Edwards just, after a promising start in that first game against the Packers, just never did enough as a playmaker to justify keeping another running back on this team, on a team that has 3 great running backs, and you're probably going to want to keep Andrew Beck as a fullback on this team. And then you have a returner who's a running back as well. So it's just hard to justify keeping that many backs when you already have solid depth. On the receiving side of things, Pritchett stood out. He looked good. Brandon Smith got a lot of targets again. Quentin Skinner got a lot of targets. But the worst news, I think, to come out of this week so far after the game is that it seems like Allen Lazard is healthy. And listen, I want Allen Lazard to be healthy. I do not want him to be injured. I don't want any player to be injured. What I don't want to see is him on the team week 1. But it seems pretty clear by all indications he is going to be the third receiver on this team. And, was not able to show anything in preseason, did not look good in camp. Then he gets hurt, comes out and says he thinks he's going to be healthy for week 1. And he also feels confident that he'll be able to play. And Aaron Glenn feels confident he's going to be able to play as well. So any thoughts of him being on the short-term IR, which would free up a spot for a Brandon Smith or Quentin Skinner, looks pretty far-fetched. And if you listen to what Aaron Glenn said today about Lazard is a really good blocker in the slot. He's a big target. To be able to go get those 50-50 balls, he's a savvy vet, all of that. One, he's not great on 50-50 balls, so I don't really think that's true. He's a big receiver, but we've seen him drop a lot of 50-50 balls. He's not exactly that kind of playmaker. And I know he's a really good run blocker. It's the thing we've heard all camp, why he would make it. A little veteran leadership, and he can block for the run. But this is not someone I expect to have a big role. But listen, we see veterans step up after a couple down years and look good. Somewhere in him is the ability to be a good receiver. It helps when Aaron Rodgers in his prime is your quarterback. But overall, the Allen Lazard experiment's going to continue, whether we like it or not. What that does mean is it's going to be Brandon Smith or Quentin Skinner or both who don't make this team. And that's unfortunate. Brandon Smith had tons of targets all preseason. He's looked great in camp. He just looks like a real receiver. Quentin Skinner is big size. He's made some flashy catches. He's really athletic as well. It's a shame that two guys with promise are not going to make this team while you have to keep, a veteran receiver just to say he's in the room, I guess. I still don't understand why Lazard is worth keeping on this team when you have such promising prospects. But, Aaron Glenn's in win now mode very clearly, even in year one. It helps to have a little leadership and have some veterans on the team. So we will get more Allen Lazard. The tight end situation, I know we're all excited about Mason Taylor, and I'm excited to see him play week one, and he looks like a playmaker. I'm a little worried overall about the tight end position, though, right? Jeremy Ruckert's been a disappointment. Stone Smart, had a great block, and he's got some good size, but he's not a real pass-catching threat. And they cut Zach Kuntz, who was not going to make this team and looked terrible in the preseason. Unless Mason Taylor can really take a leap as a rookie and become a legitimate passing threat, I think the tight end spot's a little weak for the Jets. There's promise there. I don't think Jeremy Ruckert or Stone Smart have done much to make you feel like they're all set and ready to go. Another guy who's not going to make this team is Malachi Corley. Corley did not have a catch. He had 2 targets in his final game as a Jet. I think in terms of who's going to stay and who's going to go, the cuts we're not going to want to see. It's going to be a young receiver or two who does not make this team, which is disappointing. I do expect Andrew Beck to make the team, and he's going to be a fullback, H-back player. I wouldn't say it's 100%, but all signs seem to point to him making the team. I was a little surprised to see Jamin Davis cut. He looked like he was playing himself into a pass rushing role, but he got cut yesterday. I would also look for Zaire Barnes to be let go, and Barnes was really disappointing this preseason. Someone who once had some promise and has made some plays for the Jets will likely be looking for another team. And also Brady McGregor, who I think there was a point where maybe McGregor had an opportunity, but once they brought in 2 defensive tackles like they did, 2 guys who were definitely going to make the team, that probably takes one of his spots away. So what are we going to look for moving forward? Well, in terms of who the Jets can get off the scrap heap, I would expect them after cut day to look for either a wide receiver, a defensive lineman, or add tight end to get some more tight end depth. And we'll see who's available. We're starting to see some bigger names, at least notable people being removed from rosters. So look for the Jets to be active. And also, clearly Muji is not afraid to make some trades. I think there's a really good chance that the Jets make another move before, September 7th when we kick things off at MetLife Stadium. Another thing, too, obviously, is let's just get to week one healthy. Overall, injuries have not been terrible, knock on all the wood, for the Jets. This has been a very physical camp, right? This is a camp that, they were hitting live early. They're playing starters in the preseason, and it's always a fear that when you do that, guys get banged up too early on in the season. Well, so far, they're able to keep their key guys who are a little dinged up out. We didn't see Quinnen Williams this preseason. Again, Mason Taylor was mostly quiet in terms of the games played in the preseason. But, week one, this is a relatively healthy squad as long as nothing crazy happens between now and game one. So what are we going to have coming up for the Gangrene Against the World podcast? Later this week, I'm going to do a full NFL preview show, kind of give my take on who I see coming out of each division, who are the surprise teams that I think are ready to take a step down, and overall start to give an idea of what I think the real outcome will be for the Jets this season. I'll do a Jets-focused preview before week one as well and give my prediction for, games 1, all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited that now all the games moving forward are for real. We'll take a look to see who's on the team after a cut down day tomorrow at 4 p.m. Feel free to give me a follow on Twitter, on X, to keep tabs on what's going on there. And if you don't follow me, but you're listening to this podcast, go over there and give me an ad. I am at The Gangrene on Twitter. So we'll see who gets cut. We'll see who's still on the team. We'll probably mourn a young receiver no longer being on this squad. Look out for the preview show coming up at the end of this week. We got guests lined up for the season I'm excited about. We'll have someone week 1 representing the Steelers, and we're off and running. It's next week of September, which is pretty amazing. And next week will be the first regular season week for the Gangrene Against the World podcast. So thank you so much for listening to the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. Have a great day.